There are very few things more frustrating than Facebook disabling your ad account. And when it happens, you might not know what to do. And you might be freaking out because you could be spending a lot of money on there, or you might be using it to bring leads in to grow your business. And it's like the worst thing that can possibly happen to you in that moment. So today we're going to teach you what to do when your ad account gets disabled on Facebook. All right. We're going to talk to you about specifically what you need to say when you appeal it, when you request that they review it to re-enable your account. We're going to talk to you about what you need to do to get your ads back up and running in case they don't re-enable it, because that can happen. And then finally, we're going to talk to you about strategies that you need to take preemptively to protect yourself in the instance that your ad account gets disabled, because there's a lot of things you can do to make sure you can continue advertising, protect your pixel data, your custom audiences, and all of that effort that you've put in. So we're going to get into all of that. But if you've never been on our channel before, my name's Mike Yanda. I'm one of the co-founders of laptopempires.com. And today's video it's a long one. It's very detailed because it's actually one of the live trainings that we did earlier this week for our students inside of the Facebook Side Hustle course. Okay. And so we're teaching them how to make money managing Facebook ads for local businesses. And one of the things that's started to come up recently is a couple of people have dealt with this ad account ban type thing. So we did this big live training on it. It's about an hour. Grab a pen, grab paper, pause, come back when you need to. But there's tons of good information, and you're going to feel really comfortable either avoiding getting into this situation where you can't advertise anymore, or figuring out what to do when that disabled notification hits your email inbox. So hope you enjoy it. If you've got any further questions, let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our great Facebook advertising guides. I'll see you on the other side. What to do when your ad account gets disabled. And we're actually going to cover 3 specific topics here. How to request a review to get the ad account re-enabled, like exactly what should you say, and then what to do if your request is denied. So how do you get ads back up and running again? That's really important, because sometimes, like, if an account gets disabled, they don't re-enable it. And then you got to start over. You got to find another way to get back up and running. So we're going to tell you what to do there. And then we're going to talk about best practices, things that you can do to prevent issues in case you do get an account disabled. All right. So we're going to talk about strategies to protect your ability to advertise, protect your pixel data, and protect your custom audiences that you've created. So that is the plan for today. I hope everybody is doing well. Let's dive right into this, talking about how to request a review request.
Yes.
I was having a hard time saying that for a second. So, we've had, just in full disclosure, Bobby, we've had a lot of experience with this lately.
A lot. Well, I mean, even going back to like a year ago, the Millennial Money Man account got shut down. That one was like shut down. Like we didn't even get that one back up. But the good news is, even despite that, like, I'm still running ads. So,
right.
I think one of the things that I've seen most of the time is people just panic. They're like, "Oh crap, I'm screwed." So this is a good one. I'm glad we're talking about this, and it can be a really frustrating process too. And that's what lately we've been dealing with. Maybe not lately. I think it was like a month or 2 ago. We were dealing with a really frustrating process where we were getting shut down quite a bit, and it was like retroactive shutdown kind of stuff was happening, where we had ads that were running previously that were getting rejected, after the fact. So
right.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, it doesn't matter if it's your ad account or it's a client's ad account. Don't panic, right? Like that's really important. Like, just, there's actions you can take. Some of the things that we're going to talk about today are actually kind of a pain. Like, you'll be like, oh, why do I have to do this? But they're easy solutions. It's not difficult to do. But, it's also important to keep in mind, like, what is happening right now as of October of 2019, that's causing ad account shutdowns. Because it's no surprise that we've had multiple people inside the Facebook Side Hustle course, like multiple of our students that are like, my account got shut down, my client's account got shut down, and they're dealing with this right now. And so, just to give you some background on what's happening, is Facebook has a small staff to handle account reviews. So think about how many
there's so many people advertising, and there's a very small staff that manually reviews things. And so they rely very much on AI. Like there's little robots that are reviewing things. And so two things have been happening lately. They are relying on computers to make these decisions a lot more frequently than before. And so there's a lot of mistakes. They've tightened up policies in certain cases where things that were permitted 6 months ago aren't now. And then there's retroactive reviews going on of old ads, right? And this is just a good example of this. Last week, one of our Laptop Empires accounts that was not running ads got disabled, and we got it re-enabled within 24 hours because like we weren't running ads. It was like, how are we violating a policy if we're not running ads? Okay. So you may be having this just because your ad account got disabled doesn't mean that you did something wrong. And as long as you are polite and you do what we say, and work with them and make it clear that you're doing your best to comply with policy, you're going to be fine. But I do want to put like an extra emphasis on be polite, right? Mm-hmm. If you start to get snarky with Facebook, they will shut you down. Like
this happened to me. This happened to me a couple of years ago, way before I met you. It was the first time my ad account got shut down, and I was running some ads on, about cars. And, it was like one of the blog posts about like, you shouldn't ever buy a new car or something. This is back when I wrote whatever the hell I wanted to. And, it got shut down. Like my whole thing got shut down because I was going against the advertising policies. And then I was so mad that I sent this like really, really crappy message to the Facebook ad representative, and they immediately responded. Well, as fast as immediately as for Facebook, they responded with like, yeah, you're done. Like they were just like, nah, we're not going to handle that. So yeah, I learned my lesson on that one.
Yeah, so. You just need to be polite. So when we're kind of getting into this, the other thing to keep in mind too is just to touch on like rejections. If your ad gets approved, okay, it doesn't get rejected immediately. Like it's in review and it gets approved. That does not mean that it's safe yet, because the process is that Facebook will approve ads, through their computers, and then we'll go back and review ads and landing pages. And the way this works too is that with ads, like you may notice if you're a newer advertiser, it takes a long time to get ads approved because they haven't built trust yet. When you do a lot of advertising like we do, ads get approved almost instantly at times. And so it's not uncommon for you to be running an ad for a few days and then to have that ad rejected because it was getting that secondary review, which always comes. They're basically trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and allow you to start advertising, but they still need to go back and look at it. So that can be happening as well. If you see that it's approved and then it gets rejected, don't be stubborn and keep trying to run it or just deleting it and running it again, because there is something wrong. You do need to make changes. And if you just keep trying to redo it and get past that because you think, oh, it got approved once, so it's good, you're going to get in trouble and your account could be disabled because you're not actively making the changes. It looks like you're trying to like fight them and get through a loophole, and they don't like that. Right. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So what happens when this request to review comes through? The first thing you need to do is they're going to give you an email. They're going to give you a message through the support box. But usually you'll get the email and it'll say your ad account has been shut down. And then it says you have a certain period of time to request a review. Okay. And you can just click that hyperlink and it's going to open up and it's going to ask you the account. And then it's going to ask if you're the owner of the account or you manage the account. All right. And then you need to type a response. The first thing that you should do in that situation is you need to look at the ads you've been running and try to understand, was there something that could potentially be a policy violation? Okay. It's always better to know what you did wrong before going into this. Okay. And you're going to see, we're going to talk about, how to respond, but it's better if you know and can identify what you did. Because if you show, this is going to be kind of counter to one of the ways I'm going to say to like respond to them, but if you have no clue what the policies are and that becomes very evident to them, then they will disable your advertising ability. and maybe even to the extent of completely shutting down your personal profile, like in the ability to advertise on that profile. So you do want to make sure, if you think that there's something borderline, then you need have that in mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add on to that before I jump into kind of like what to say?
Yeah. I mean, the whole excuse of like, I didn't know, like if you get shut down and your only excuse is like, oh, well, I didn't know that was against policy. Like that's not enough for them. That
Right.
doesn't mean that, I mean, sometimes there are things that you do if you write copy and you just weren't quite sure that was going to be against the policy. Like you can explain to them, and we'll get into this in a second, but you can explain to them like, hey, I always follow ad policy. This was like a one-time thing. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again in the future. That's a lot different than just being like, well, I didn't know. Like, it's not my fault. Like they don't care about that.
Right. And it's that kind of old phrase, like ignorance is no excuse of the law. Like,
yeah.
So, and that's a real thing, it applies for Facebook as well as our legal system. So, if you can know what you did ahead of time, that helps. Right.
Yeah.
Especially like if an ad gets rejected and then it gets disabled. When you go to now, the other reason you want to know is because you want to look at it and think to yourself, like, okay, is this did I clearly do something wrong? Or is it something that you don't know or you don't understand? Right. We've had, I told you we had like our ad account getting shut down, like nonstop. It was like every day. It was like 4 a.m. It would be like, we'd be sleeping. We'd wake up to account disabled. And then by the end of the day, it'd be reinstated. And then overnight it'd be disabled. It kept happening over and over and over again, even though we were running things that we've been, running for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Like over a year. That we never had problems with. And when we were looking at it, we were like, okay, we think this is within the policy. Right. And so, that's a little different than, so you gotta know that first. And the reason that's super important is because the minute your account is reinstated, you want to make changes immediately. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't make those changes, like we've had like a couple of times where it was getting reinstated and then it was getting rejected before we could do anything about it. Or no, that was the example. They weren't rejecting it at 4 a.m. They were reinstating it at 4 a.m. and then disabling it again by like 8 a.m. And so it's like, I'm in the middle of like getting my kids ready for school and it's like, your account's been disabled. I'm like, I didn't even know it was re-enabled, like,
right. Yeah.
You've got to be
very
ready.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
We dealt with that for a long time. That was happening on and off again for like 2 weeks where it was like, God, we just can't even keep up with how quickly it's getting shut down.
Right. And so there's kind of two approaches that you can take when you're responding to these requests. The first one, because they're asking you like, do you think it's a mistake disabled? And so you can go in and say, let's say you realize I did this thing, let's say you're in the fitness space and you accidentally wrote some copy that was, about getting a specific result in a time-bound period, right? Like dropping 10 pounds in 6 months, like perfectly reasonable, but it's going to get flagged, under the, kind of like unreasonable expectations because you're not allowed to have time-bound limitations. That in 6 months thing is not permitted. So you look at that and go, oh, it slipped my mind. I didn't realize I put that in there. You got disabled. You might go in and respond and basically be like, look, say, hey, I'm requesting a review. I see what I did wrong on this one ad. It was a total accident. Can you please re-enable my account so that I can make changes and get this in compliance right away? Right. Yeah. And you can take that approach of being apologetic, saying you understand after looking at the warning what it is, and that you'll make changes to get in compliance as soon as they open it up. And this is a safe route to go. It's a good way to go. I think there's some. I talked to one of our students recently, and she said she'd been given the advice to like be super apologetic and go in as much detail as possible, and put everything you can in there. And that can work, and it did work for her. She had hers re-enabled immediately. So you can go down that route. I personally prefer to be a little more short with it, like to be more concise and just say, hey, I screwed up. I'd like the
Right.
opportunity to change it. I do everything I can to stay compliant. I'll make these changes and any changes that you suggest right away as soon as you guys reactivate my account. Thank you very much. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I found that's how I prefer to handle it.
Yeah, and that's the way that I did it last time was very similar to
Mhm.
that, and I think it was just a very direct, like keep it short and
Mhm.
sweet. It's like writing ad copy. Like you don't want to go into
Yep.
too much detail. But I feel like that worked really quickly the last time that I went that route.
Mhm.
I was trying to find that message that I sent, but I can't find it.
It's all good. It's probably you have to go to like your facebook.com/support or whatever, and then
Yeah.
they'll pull it up. Yeah, Annabelle, I knew it was you. I just didn't want to say anything, but yeah. So we've had this like a lot of students recently. So the other way to go about it is sometimes you won't know, right? And I've had that where I've looked at it and I know the policies very well, and I don't feel like we violated a policy, or I'm not sure what we did. And I know we talked about like be careful feigning ignorance, but sometimes you want to go in and basically ask for their guidance. Okay. And so this is another way. And this is actually how I respond more often than not, because we're so careful about policy violations. And so I will actually write to them and I'll say, I'm requesting a review of our account because we think it was mistakenly disabled. Okay. That's the first line I write. And then I say, we're very careful to comply with policy in every ad that we create. I understand we may have done something wrong this time. If you can please give me some guidance as to how we violated the policy, I will make those changes immediately as soon as the account's reactivated. Okay. But I like that line of like, I believe it was a mistake. And this has worked really well lately because there's a lot of these that are mistakes because it's just how these things are going down. And I actually want to pull up some very specific language. I'm not going to pull it up on the screen, but let me pull.
I just posted one in the, this is one I did
Okay.
in August. I just posted my response or my thing and then Facebook's response.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead and read that really quick?
Yeah. So mine says, "Hey there, I'm not sure what I did." This was for the account was just randomly shut down.
Yeah.
And it said, "Hey there, I'm not sure what I did to violate the Facebook ad policy standards. Can you please let me know what led to this restriction so I can correct my future actions? Whatever I did to get a restriction wasn't on purpose in any way, and I'll do whatever I can moving forward to be compliant with policy and make quick changes to rejected ads." And they came back really quickly. It was like, well, no, not really quickly. They came back within a couple of days and reinstated the ad account.
Yeah. So let me get, so another one that I've done just to kind of give you guys a thing, as I said, oh, wow. Never mind. You did pretty much, you might have borrowed.
We might have coordinated. I think we coordinated that one. I got another one.
Yeah, I know, but I think let's just dive into this then, because I think it's really important. Just, and you'll see in these, we did talk about like, we're not sure why it happened. And so like, I take that approach more often than not. And ignorance is not an excuse. So you do really have to be careful because it's a fine line between, I don't know the policies and I don't know why this happened, compared to I'm not sure what triggered it in this instance, but right. I do know the policies, and I'd appreciate some guidance. Okay. And so I think that's the big difference here. And so the big things here is we're saying, hey, I'm not sure what led to it being disabled. Can you please let me know what happened to cause it be restricted so that I can correct my mistake, right? Owning up that you made a mistake, whether you think you did or not. And then saying like, this was not intentional. I want to make sure that, this was not intentional, and I want to make sure the account is compliant. Now, here's the other thing that happens. Sometimes you put this through and it goes days and people don't hear about it and they start to get frustrated or they start to get worried. Do not be afraid to follow up. Oftentimes, it actually works in your favor if they haven't responded to you and then you follow up. Okay. And a simple way to follow up is to go back and say, hi, would it be possible to get some help with this? Right? Because you're responding to the message you already sent. said, I'm not sure how long these reviews normally take, but would like to be able to edit my ads again and correct anything that's non-compliant. Again, I'm unsure what I did to violate the policy, so any guidance you can give me would be very helpful, exclamation point. I'm just like showing my enthusiasm to fix my mistakes through punctuation. Like that kind of stuff matters. Okay. So don't be afraid to follow up with them. Another one of our students, Jason, had this recently where he did a really great request, didn't hear from people. He had like lost his ad account, his personal, like everything was shut down. He sent that follow-up and they like immediately reinstated it. Now, it's important when I said you need to figure out what you did, because even though you're asking for guidance, they won't give you guidance. They're not going to tell you what was wrong. So you need to be able to figure that out really quickly. If there's rejected ads on the account, that's pretty much a dead giveaway. Okay. And a lot of times for us, it'll be rejected ads that we're not using anymore. We just delete the ads. Okay. We look at them, we see what it was, try and find the reasoning. That way we don't do it again. And we delete those ads. In some instances, you know, we've had where there's certain landing pages that we've used that we've been able to use for a long period of time, and they decided language on the landing page was no longer going to work. And so we actually stopped using those landing pages. Okay. And something to keep in mind with that is, if that is the issue, right? And that's something we struggle with, because we're teaching the Facebook Side Hustle course. We're teaching people how to make money online. The only industry that they're more strict on than fitness is the online business world. They're very, you know, because those opportunities, so many of them are BS and so many of them are outrageous claims. And so when we see that, where it is a sales page or a landing page or something of that nature that's flagging the ad, and usually you can tell that's the problem when no matter what text you put in the ad keeps getting rejected. It's not enough after you've had your account shut down to just change the copy on the landing page. You need to use an entirely different URL. Okay, and I don't mean a different domain, but I do mean a different URL. And that doesn't mean go change the URL of the page you're currently using, because that might get you another couple of weeks, but then it's going to get you in trouble again. I mean, like, redo the landing page, making the changes you think are necessary, and then using a different URL for it, because what'll happen is that particular URL will be flagged.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any? Yeah, we've done that plenty of times. Do you guys have any questions about the requests and what to say?
Yeah, I don't see a request question. Nicole does have a question about how can we have the conversation with the client if their account gets shut down? Do you have that conversation at the beginning of working together? Which I would say no. No,
you don't really talk about it until it comes up, or else you're just going to panic your client. That's a really good way to.
With any client work, like, I don't like to bring up potential problems before they happen. You know, like, the last thing you want is somebody worrying about something that they don't need to worry about, because they will. I mean, they'll freak out about like random stuff that might not ever happen. So you just deal with it when it comes.
It's like when we talk about copy and objections, like, if there are common objections that people worry about, you need to overcome those objections, right? And you do that by thinking about going line by line through your copy and thinking about, okay, what question does this trigger? What is going through the person's mind when they read this, right? And I learned this in law school and in my legal career, right? That when you're putting together an argument, you're putting together, you know, your work, you have to go line by line. And part of making a strong persuasive case is anticipating the questions that will come up in one line and then overcoming those objections in the next. And it's the same thing with your copy. But the flip side of that you have to learn, that's applicable to copy and also with client management, is you don't ever want to try to overcome objections that aren't likely to come up, because then you're not overcoming an objection, you're planting an objection. You're putting something in their mind, and it's difficult to overcome those objections. Because you put them there, right? Yeah. So now they think you're backtracking. So that's one of those things. No, I wouldn't have that conversation up front. You have that conversation if it happens. You just act confident. You let them know that it's a process, that you'll get it taken care of. You walk them through the steps we're talking about here, and you do it. Now, you're not going to have a situation where just because it said, how do you have that conversation if their account gets shut down? Their profile will still be there. You'll still be able to talk to them in Messenger or whatever, and you should have their email and be able to talk to them that way. So you should still have an open communication channel. I was going to think if there was something else from that.
One thing I'll add to that, because this is something that Mike and I have dealt with before, just working with, different people for different things. Like the speed in which you communicate does matter. So if something happens and you see that something's wrong, don't drag your feet. Just be proactive. Tell the client like, hey, look, this happened. I'm taking care of it. I'll give you more updates whenever I can. That goes a long way in making a client feel better, because they at least feel like, okay, I know something's being done about it. What gets frustrating is when, if an ad account gets shut down and they don't hear, like they see it, maybe they see a notification for it, and they don't hear from you. They don't hear from you for days. Then they're going to go, well, what the heck is going on? Like, what is this person doing with my ad account right now? So just, if you see it, just like Mike said, be confident, just tell them.
And then communicate frequently after that. Yeah. Every little thing, even non-events. Hey, talked to you yesterday. I've already submitted an appeal with Facebook. Have not heard back from them yet. Just wanted to let you know, if we don't hear back from them tomorrow, we'll do a follow-up, right? Yeah. Give them that peace of mind. It's very stressful for them. And the same thing goes with the speed, with like replying to it when this happens. Don't sit on it. Don't stress over it for days. Like, try to respond to them quickly. Do your due diligence, try and figure out what it is, send your response and get it over, right? Like, just don't, if you sit on it for days and days and days, then it looks bad, because it looks like you don't care or you're not paying attention, so you got to be aware of those things too. Okay. So we've got that. That's how you request a review. You follow up. Why don't we talk about how to get back up and running if you get the dreaded, you've reviewed your account and you still don't get access. Okay.
You are screwed.
Not really though, but
yeah. No. But that's what they're, like basically that's what they're saying. You are screwed.
Yeah.
But it's not true.
Yeah. So take this, all this with a grain of salt, right? Because like technically they don't want you to be able to advertise anymore. Okay. Like that's what they're doing. So you're kind of skirting around that a little bit. All right. So the first thing is, if you've got multiple ad accounts, you can use one of the other ad accounts. Okay. And that's a very easy way to get up and running. We're going to talk about best practices here in a little bit. And one of those things is creating backup ad accounts. And so the minute you get shut down, you might want to move to advertising on a different account, just so that you don't miss a beat. And we've done that before, where we advertise on a different account. And then when the main account comes back on, we go back to that one. Okay. So that's something you can do really easily. But what happens if your ad account gets shut down and you don't have another ad account? Because when you do that, once an ad account gets shut down permanently, you cannot create new ad accounts. Okay. So if you've already got ad accounts that have been created, you can use those. But if you haven't created any, you can't make a new ad account. Okay. And so in that situation, the situation that you don't have a backup ad account, or that your profile is no longer allowed to advertise, right? Which I actually had that happen to me last month. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, I have no clue what's going on, because I haven't even had a rejected ad. I think this is a mistake. Gave the format that they did here, and they immediately reinstated my advertising permissions, right? But if you lose profile permissions, or you don't have a backup ad account, and you will know if your page or your profile has lost advertising permissions, because it won't say your ad account will disable. It will say, we have stripped you of your privilege to advertise, right? So you'll know. Obviously appeal, but if you lose that appeal or you don't have a backup ad account, you need to create a new one. You need to create a new profile, and you need to, this will make me laugh because I'm thinking of an image. I was going to share this with you guys in the group, but you're going to need to create a new profile that's kind of not a real profile. And I'm really hoping I can find this image. Okay. I'll share this with y'all later. I don't know if you can see it, but it's 4 images of Snoop Dogg. So there's like Snoop Dogg with like an Aladdin outfit. Snoop Dogg is like a gray-haired, like long-haired old man. Him with the do-rag and him wearing a fish hat. Okay, and the text is me creating new Facebook profiles to open more business managers, and it's just like different Snoop Dogs. Okay,
yeah.
And so that's what you have to do. You need to go and create. A different profile, right? And sometimes, like, I know some people are pretty funny with it. One of our founding members in the course is like a former client of mine, and I remember when he first added me to his account, it was not with his regular profile. It was this profile with like this really funny name and this crazy picture because he'd created this random account. So you may have to create a new profile with a new email and a different name and use that, right? And so that's just something to keep in mind. You're not supposed to do that, but like that might be what you're stuck with and the only thing that you're able to do. So that's kind of how you get around it, is you create a new profile, then you create an ad account from that profile, and then you get into our best practices and prepare yourself to make sure it doesn't happen again. And we'll get into that in a second. Same thing with a page. If your page loses the ability to advertise, you might have to make a new page, right? You might have to just shut it down and make a new one and start from scratch. And that really sucks. But it is what it is. Bobby, you got anything else on that point?
No, I mean, it's just one of those things that's like, I feel like that's not the danger of doing business on Facebook, but it's just something that happens. I mean, we've had a situation before where you've had, like, you were totally banned from Facebook, not even based on anything, based on anything you did. We were in the middle of a launch, and there was like some weird thing where half the Laptop Empires team was banned from Facebook. You had to go and create a new profile.
If you see me on Facebook right now, it's kind of funny. I'm on my original profile that I created like my senior year of high school after I got my college, because you used to have your college email address. And this account, I actually shut down my first year of law school because one of my professors had basically Facebook stalked everybody and brought up all these like embarrassing things from people to prove a point that we needed to clean up our social media image going into a legal career. And I just decided after seeing that to shut my account down and build a new one. So the entire time that I've owned a business, which started in law school, I had a different account. There was a security breach. If you guys remember the big security breach with Facebook, they kicked a lot of people out and you had to verify your identity by taking a selfie. And I had headphones on, I had my glasses on, which I don't have in a single Facebook picture. And I was like mad. I was like having a bad day. And so I was like grumpy. And they told me they couldn't verify my identity. They thought I was a hacker. And so I've sent my driver's license and my passport, like all this information, and they will not bring it up. So I've got this old account back again. So crazy stuff happens. All right. So just keep that in mind. I want to go into best practices now. And I know you guys have questions on the side and I want to get to them, but I'm going to save them because some of these questions might be answered. And I'd rather teach you the best practices to protect your accounts and your audiences, and then go back to those questions and reiterate, than kind of go out of order with this. So we're going to dive into that. I'm actually going to go ahead and just share my screen. And here we go. Can you guys see me in here?
Yes.
So this is business settings. You can see the people that are there. You can see all the pages. You can see I have a lot of pages that I'm actively work on, a ton of ad accounts here, a couple of which are disabled, you can see. And actually, let me switch over to the LE one. So I don't want to have all my client stuff all everywhere. But you can see here, if you go to people, you can see for us all these accounts. You can see a Millennial Money Man account, a Laptop Empires account, and then there's Millennium Money Man, Millennium Money Man 2, Laptop Empires, LE2, LE3. We have all these backup accounts, okay? And so this is the first thing that you need to do. Oh, and you'll also see, look, there's me, there's me and Bobby. Like there's all these, I don't even know which one of these. I think one of these is like my profile that got shut down. One of those is me now. And
Yeah.
one of these, I don't even know. Apparently,
I don't know what that
apparently we have a two-headed monster profile that I didn't even know existed.
We've had a lot of issues with this before. So
yeah, we've got some, and the more you advertise, the more you'll have this, right? Like it's a very common thing. It's not like a problem. It's not anything. It doesn't mean you're a bad marketer or anything like that. So, you know, in here you can see we've got these pages, we've got all these ad accounts. So the first step to best practice for protecting your account is setting up Business Manager. Okay, you really need to go to business.facebook.com and set up a Business Manager account. And once you do that, you need to add your page and your ad accounts to Business Manager, because in order to have all these extra ad accounts and things, you need to have a Business Manager set up. It's very important, and this is actually it's what Facebook wants you to do. It's how they want you to organize everything, but it's also going to protect you. Now, if you need to know how to do this, if you guys haven't seen this yet, we'll go ahead and we'll post below. You can see the video. I'll pull it up later. But on the Laptop Empires here, you know, on the YouTube channel, there's actually a video on how to set up Business Manager, Ads Manager, and all of that. And it's like set up Business Manager in 10 minutes or less. So you can watch that quick video, you know, if you need a refresher on that, or if you don't know how to do it at all. But you need to get Business Manager set up. And then you need to add your accounts, and you need to start creating backup accounts. And there will be a limit. So like, I'll go ahead and do it right now because maybe they'll let us do anyone. I'm going to go create a new ad account. Okay, I'm going to call it LE4. Next, my business, create. And look at us. We are just a little bit safer than we were. Okay, I don't even know which of these is me. So we're going to do this. I'm going to make us admins. There you go, Bobby. We have another backup account. Now, if I go to do this again, it might tell me no. Let's see. I'm kind of actually hoping that happens. You've reached the maximum of ad accounts you can create at this time. So this warning is going to happen either because you just created Business Manager and it won't allow you to create more than one, or because you've done one already that week. You should be able to create an ad account per week up to a certain threshold, and that threshold is determined based on how long you've been advertising. So every Monday, try and create a backup ad account to protect yourself, okay? And you should do this. You should at least create 1 or 2 backup accounts for your clients if you're managing Facebook ads for your clients. One of the first things I do for clients is I create 2 new backup accounts for them. I actually even know some ad managers that they will actually manage ads from a second ad account, like a fresh ad account for their client, right? So if their client has an old ad account, they'll just start managing ads from a completely fresh ad account. So that's step number 1. Have your backups. And we mentioned this earlier. It's just because, let's say we're advertising on the LE account and it gets shut down. If I have no other accounts, I can't create new accounts. But if I have these in place, I can advertise off of those accounts. All good? Any questions on that front? Okay. So the next thing that you should be thinking about is your pixel and your custom audiences, right? Especially if you do, like Bobby and I do a lot of retargeting. And so we have a lot of audiences, like people that have engaged with our page in the last 30 days, 60 days, 180 days, people that have engaged with our website, people that are on our email list, people that have hit sales pages. Like we have all these custom audiences, people that have watched videos, right? People that have watched a specific video. So you may be building all of these audiences through your content and your ads, and you want to protect them. So here's an example. I'll give you a really good example that happened to us. So we were running ads, and our account, we talked about the trouble we were having with our account, and it got shut down. When the LE account, which you can see is reinstated, when it first got shut down, that meant the pixel that was on all of our sites and all the audiences that we were using, the lookalike audiences as well, those all disappeared. We had a backup account, so we went to the LE2 account to try and start advertising, but we couldn't use those audiences even though we had shared them over, because the account the audiences were stored on had been rejected. right? And so that ended up being a problem. We had to go put a new pixel on all these pages and basically start from scratch. So all that hard work, all that we'd spent, we lost. Now, luckily, we got our account reinstated pretty quickly. But what we ended up doing after that, and what I've really been doing for my clients now for over 6 months, is when we work now, we use a different ad account than we use Pixel and audiences. Okay. So for example, we do a lot of advertising now from the Laptop Empires 2 account, and we'll run ads there, but we're sharing the Laptop Empires pixel to this account. We're sharing the custom audiences and the lookalike audiences to this account. Now, what that does is it means that if our LE2 account gets shut down for some reason, we still have all of that data, all those audiences, and no problems. And we can actually just move over to LE3, share the audiences again, and pick up right where we left off immediately. Okay, and so you protect all that data. And that's really important, because the only thing more annoying than your ad account getting shut down is losing all of your pixel data. I mean, that really sucks.
Yes.
And another thing that you can do, and Bobby and I have done this too, is you can put a second pixel on all of your sites and pages. So we actually have 2 pixels on all of them. We're collecting data. So that way, if for some reason one of them did go down, we've got the same data on a backup one. A really good example of this is that like the Millennial Moneyman website has a Millennial Moneyman pixel and a Laptop Empires pixel. And
right.
it's just, we're just protecting those assets, making sure everything's okay, making sure we have that, we're, guarding each other's back, so to speak. So this is like a very big thing. So if you are thinking about this, let's say you have a client. If you have a client and they have, let's say we're your client and none of these exist, and Laptop Empires hires you to manage your accounts. What I would do personally, if I were you, is I would go in and I would say, cool, I'm going to create some backup accounts for you. And I would create LE2 and LE3, or at least LE2. And then I would either add the LE2 pixel to all of the pages and then start managing the ads from their main account using that pixel, or I would use that fresh account with the shared pixel from their main account, protecting their main account. And there's a lot of value in doing that too, because now it's really organized, it's fresh, like you don't have to worry about it, right? But that's something that I would really do to protect yourself or your clients from getting shut down now, something really big to look at. So I showed you guys how to add one. Let me show you, you can share assets and stuff. Let me just show you what that looks like really quickly. If you want to share audiences.
Yeah, I just did that the other day. I've got like
let me
30 audiences that I shared from LE to my account.
Right. Okay,
Very
so
exciting.
We've got, I messed that up. So you can take these, we might say, hey, this 25% view of Do Niches Get Riches that 1,500 people have watched, this is a really essential audience for us. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click share. And then we're going to put the, you can see our accounts have appeared. We can pick it. And if you don't have, it's not one of your accounts that you own, then what you can actually do is you can go up here and you can go back to business settings for the account you want to share to, and you go to business info, and now you've got your business manager ID. You can pull it up here, and that's the ID. That's what you're going to share it to. All right. I think that's it. Let's go ahead and go to questions.
Yeah, Annabelle asked if you need to add a bunch of friends in Look Legit before requesting an advertising account. Like if you get shut down.
No.
Yeah, see, I didn't think so.
You don't, but at the same time, I wouldn't just like have an empty account either. Like I would just, you can, I don't know. I don't know that it really matters. I will say, like, it's very rare that you would have to do that. Like, as long as I've been doing this, I can only think of 2, maybe 3 situations where somebody has had to go to that extent. And it's been a couple years since I've seen anybody do that. There's more separation now than there used to be. It used to be like if your account got shut down, like your page was tied to it, your ad account was down to it, your personal profile was down to it, your credit card was down to it, and like if you used any of those assets anywhere else, those things would get shut down. And it's not like that anymore. So if you're going to do it, I would definitely make it look like a new profile. But if it's you, that's the other thing too. Like it might be that it's you and you use that as a business profile, right? I've had people where their personal profile got shut down, and so they started using that for friends and family, and then they use this new profile to engage in business groups, post about their content, that kind of stuff, and it's for business. And so that's a good way, and then it's very authentic. And they just do usually like first name, middle name is really common that way. Then you don't have a bunch of strangers that don't know you that are, know your last name and are looking up your address and are looking at your kids' pictures and all that kind of stuff. Nicole asks, will the other accounts have the same pixel? So you are going to have a different pixel per ad account. You can create them. Okay. But you can also share them. So a good example of that, like, there's like Millennial Money Man has its own pixel, but we've also shared the Laptop Empire's pixel to it, and vice versa, right? And so, there's times and there's overlap in our businesses, right? So there's times where we might want Millennial Money Man people to see some of the Laptop Empire's content, or like if we are promoting our program and we want them to see ads to purchase our program, right? We'll have that. There might also be times where maybe we have a video or we have a piece of content on Laptop Empires that is going to work really well for Millennial Money Man, right? Like Bobby's site, like you're ranking like really high for like really competitively in side hustle stuff, right? Mm-hmm. For a personal finance website.
Yep, faux show.
Yeah. So, there might be times where we've got a really high engagement piece of side hustle content, and we want to share that audience over to Millennial Money Man so that Bobby can create a lookalike and run more of those kind of people to that Millennial Money Man piece of content, right? So like we really like share a lot of resources between those two businesses, and so you might have situations like that as well. But it's not the same pixel, and that's why if your one account gets shut down, you're starting with a brand new pixel. Like you're losing all that information. So just put both pixels on both sites, and then share one of them and run ads against the pixel that is not attached to the ad account you're using. And that's ideally the two pixels that you're doing, neither one should be from the ad account you're using. Now, I will say I've just started doing this in the last 6 months. You don't have to do that. It's just we ran into a situation and I found it to be very helpful, and now I started implementing that across the agency. Like you don't have to do that necessarily. You can always go to fresh pixel data. It just kind of depends on who you're working with, the kind of business you're working with. If you're working with like a local business and you're just running people to landing pages, you don't need to do that. But if you're running with like an online business, like if somebody's hiring us or we're the client, then because of the nature of our business where we're so reliant on these custom audiences, we need to protect those. We need to share those. Any other questions?
I don't think so. Yeah, this is one of those trainings. Just keep it in your back pocket. Hopefully you never have to look at it.
Seriously, really hope that's the case. So,
all right.
All right, I hope you enjoyed our video on what to do if your Facebook account gets disabled. For next steps, I wanted you to watch this video that's popping up on the screen. It's about how to set up your business manager in 10 minutes or less. Really short video, but all of the things that we talked about, setting up your business manager, those kind of things, if you want to know more about it, that is the training to go to. That way you can navigate Business Manager pretty easily. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe. We'll see you next week.